Deep in the heart of the Mesoamerican jungles, a civilization once thrived, building towering pyramids that touched the sky and developing a writing system so complex it baffles us to this day. They were the Maya, masters of astronomy, mathematics, and art. Their cities, like Tikal and Calakmul, were bustling metropolises, home to hundreds of thousands of people. But then, almost overnight, it all vanished. The great stone cities were abandoned, left to be swallowed by the relentless jungle. What happened? How could one of the world's most advanced ancient civilizations just disappear? This is the story of the great collapse of the Mayan civilization. First, let's get one thing straight. The Maya people didn't actually disappear. Millions of their descendants are alive and well today in Central America, still speaking Mayan languages and practicing ancient traditions. What collapsed was their political and social structure in the southern lowlands, the heartland of the classic Maya period between the 8th and 9th centuries AD. The gleaming cities were deserted, the kings lost their power, and the long count calendar, which meticulously tracked their history, simply stopped. It's like if tomorrow New York, London, and Tokyo were all abandoned, and no one wrote a single word about why. It's a historical mystery that has puzzled archaeologists for generations. For a long time, the leading theory was a massive single catastrophe. Maybe it was a foreign invasion, a devastating plague, or a peasant revolt against the ruling class. And there's some evidence for each of these. We've found signs of increased warfare between city-states in the final years of the classic period. Skeletons from this era sometimes show signs of malnutrition, suggesting widespread disease or famine. And the idea of the common folk rising up against the divine kings who failed to bring rain and prosperity is definitely plausible. But a single cause just doesn't seem to fit the bill. The collapse wasn't a single event. It was a slow, agonizing decline that unfolded over more than a century, and it happened differently in different places. This is where science really starts to paint a clearer picture. By studying sediment core from lakes and analyzing stalagmites from deep within caves, nature's own history book scientists discovered a devastating pattern. The period of the Mayan collapse, from about 800 to 950 AD, coincided with a series of severe, prolonged droughts. We're not talking about a dry summer. We're talking about megadroughts, some lasting for decades. Imagine the annual rainfall dropping by up to 70%. For a civilization built on agriculture, specifically water-hungry crops like maize, this would have been apocalyptic. The Maya were brilliant water managers. They built vast systems of reservoirs, canals, and cisterns to capture and store rainwater. For centuries, this system worked beautifully, but even the most ingenious engineering has its limits. As the droughts intensified, the reservoirs would have dried up. Crop yields would have plummeted, leading to widespread famine and social unrest. The intricate trade networks that connected the Mayan cities, which moved everything from food and salt to obsidian and jade, would have broken down. Without food and resources, the very foundation of their society began to crumble. But climate change wasn't the only villain in this story. The Maya themselves may have unknowingly made things worse. For centuries, they had been clearing vast areas of jungle to make way for their cities and farms. This large-scale deforestation had a direct impact on their local climate. Fewer trees meant less moisture was returned to the atmosphere, which likely made the droughts even more severe. It's a tragic feedback loop. They cleared forests to grow more food for a growing population, which in turn contributed to the droughts that destroyed their food supply. They were, in a way, architects of their own demise, trapped in a cycle they couldn't see. So, as the environment turned against them, the social fabric began to tear. The divine kings and the ruling elite based their power on their supposed ability to communicate with the gods and ensure agricultural prosperity. They performed elaborate rituals and bloodletting ceremonies to appease the deities and bring rain. But as the droughts dragged on year after year and the rituals failed, the people's faith would have shattered. Why would you follow a king who couldn't make it rain? Why would you pay tribute to a lord who couldn't feed you? The authority of the rulers evaporated, like the water in their reservoirs. Evidence of this social breakdown is etched into the archaeological record. We see a sharp increase in warfare between neighboring cities. But this wasn't the ritualized warfare of earlier periods. It was desperate, total war. Fortifications were hastily built around city centers, a sign of constant fear. The glorious art and monumental inscriptions that celebrated the lives of kings ceased. Instead, the final monuments are often smaller, cruder, and left unfinished, as if the artists simply dropped their tools and walked away. It was the end of an era, not with a bang, but with a slow, grinding whisper. So what happened to all the people? They didn't just vanish. Faced with starvation, warfare, and a complete loss of faith in their leaders, they did the most logical thing. They left. They abandoned the big cities in the southern lowlands and migrated. Some moved north to the Yucatan Peninsula, where new Mayan cities like Chichen Itza and Uxmal would rise and flourish in what is known as the post-classic period. These northern cities had different political structures and better access to water sources, like the famous cenotes, natural sinkholes that tapped into the groundwater. Other groups may have moved into smaller, more sustainable villages in the highlands or along the coasts, adopting a simpler way of life. The grand experiment of the massive jungle cities was over. The story of the Mayan collapse isn't just an ancient mystery. It's a profound cautionary tale for our own time. It shows how a combination of environmental change, overexploitation of resources, and social and political instability can bring even the most sophisticated civilization to its knees. The Maya weren't foolish. They were intelligent, adaptable people who were ultimately overwhelmed by a perfect storm of crisism, natural sum of their own making. Their empty cities, now silent and draped in green, stand as a powerful reminder of the delicate balance between human civilization and the environment that sustains it. Today, archaeologists continue to uncover new clues using cutting-edge technology like LiDAR to peer through the dense jungle canopy and discover thousands of previously unknown structures. Each new discovery adds another piece to this complex puzzle. The collapse wasn't a simple, single event, but a complex tapestry of climate change, warfare, political failure, and environmental degradation.